It's a dark day in America, folks. The news is confirmed. J.Crew has fallen. The flags are all at half-mast, I'm sure. If you didn't see the news, J.Crew posted some photos to Instagram as part of a campaign that were AI-generated using generative AI. And it's made a bit of a stink. People are kind of calling them out. If you check out any of their recent posts, they're still talking about it. The thing is, J.Crew's not the first ones to do this, but they are the most recent. And I think they draw a special ire because of what they represent for some people, or at least the brand image that they're trying to cultivate. I got a confession to make. I love J.Crew. I actually was going to make a video about, called I love J.Crew, and this news story just kind of dropped in my lap, so it all worked out. But Matt, you dress like this. That's true. I also dress like this. I'm very complicated, all right? I'm like an onion. I have layers, and I'll make you cry. It may be surprising to some people because I kind of dip my toe in a lot of different fashion realms, and obviously I'm into avant-garde stuff, but I mean, my first sort of foray into fashion was with J.Crew, oddly enough. I think they're kind of like a gateway drug or gateway brand to caring about your style a little bit more. Just because they're a little bit elevated, I think, from a typical mall brand. At least that's my perception of them. And I still think J.Crew makes nice stuff. I'll get into that in a little bit, but before I get into the news story, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Honestly, you guys have been showing a lot of love and I really appreciate it. So if you like these kinds of videos, if you see me around a little bit, please do subscribe and I'll keep making more of them. But yeah, so this all actually was picked out by Blackbird Spyplane, which you should check out. They are a style and culture and travel blog, basically. They have a Substack, and they actually did some good reporting on this because they were kind of eagle-eyed and spotted it, and everybody else has just been sort of reporting off of that. They were the first. They were even calling into question, is this AI, guys? Can you pick this out? And it was because it wasn't super overt, but it was stuff this guy's hands looked kind of weird going into his bike, or one guy's shoe looked like his foot was on backwards. Another person, they actually enlisted someone who knows about boats to look at the boats in the background and be like, does this make sense? And so people kind of jumped on board and did some cyber sleuthing and figured out that no, it doesn't, and this is AI generated stuff. J.Crew has commented on this since, but since putting up these pictures, they've only modified the post to say they've admitted they were AI. They said they worked with an AI studio. I'll pull it up to make sure I get the name of it right. But yeah, they updated the captions to call out someone named AI Sam Finn, who refers to themselves as an AI photographer. And they said in a statement that they did a partnership with Sam Finn Studio, who's I guess a generative AI art studio. So they're not shying away from it. They've admitted it. But they've also kind of been a little quiet about it. I guess I'll just read their official statement. We're always exploring new forms of creative expression, expanding how we work, and finding fresh, innovative ways to create content, the company told the magazine. This partnership with Sam Finn Studio is one of many examples of how we engage artists of all genres to interpret our brand and experiment with different art mediums. So the thing that's funny about that is okay, so they're saying oh, generative AI is just another form of artistic expression. So we're just it'd be like if we hired an illustrator to do something. But to not say that it's AI from the get-go and then only do it once you're called out, kind of sus. And people are calling them out for them. So I think this is where I would get into the sort of what J.Crew means to people. It's kind of funny because J.Crew is has this image that they've cultivated of being a heritage brand. But they're kind of not. I mean, they started as an in-home sales brand. They were called Popular Club Plan, I think. And they did door-to-door in-home sales. And eventually, they had a catalog, and there was a period in the 80s or the 70s and 80s when catalogs were doing really well. And then they opened their first retail store in 1989. And they were a catalog clothing brand before that. So this idea that they're they have this rich history or whatever is kind of BS from the get-go. The name J.Crew is just to evoke images of rowing crew, and the J means nothing. It's kind of like Polo in that way, a lesser Polo. I'm trying to cultivate this vibe of Americana, and speaking of which, this is J.Crew in honor of today's video. I gotta make myself look more J.Crew. The sleeves are rolling up. This is how you do it. Now I have that relaxed, take IV preppy vibe that we all want. So I think, though, regardless of what their actual history was, J.Crew cultivates an aura of heritage, preppy lifestyle, right? rolling up your sleeves and grabbing a surfboard and working on scrubbing your catamaran with a toothbrush while you're wearing a OCBD, you know. And honestly, it works really well for them. Like, that's kind of why I like the brand too, is like, or why I got like suckered into it in the first place, was like seeing those catalogs. Like, that was my introduction to the brand too. Granted, that was like, God, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. But like, I remember getting those catalogs and like loving the photography and just like the feeling that it gave me of being like, oh man, it'd be cool to like wear some boat shoes and, you know, a half untucked shirt and some rolled up khakis and walk down the beach or whatever. And I think that feeling, that lifestyle connects with people. But with that comes a feeling of authenticity, a feeling that like, this is a real thing that a tangible thing that you can experience. Same with the catalog. Like, people like that. They recently redid a catalog that was like, you got to go to this website and enter your email or something to get it, which is weird. But I did it because I wanted the thing. I've got it kicking around here somewhere because I wanted the physical thing. Like, it's like a throwback, you know, to a simpler time, a better time. So with all that being said, I think that's why they in particular draw ire from people when they start to experiment with AI artwork. You know, their imagery is like an old-fashioned camera, some film grain, you know, like legit photographers taking their shots. So it's just a weird brand. I think if they were like a high-tech, cutting-edge, like Tech Fabrics brand or whatever, I don't think people would care as much. But they're pissed off. They're like in the comment, like every post that J.Crew's making, they're like, how about you pay some photographers? So I guess I have a bit of a unique perspective on this because, as I've mentioned elsewhere, my day job is a graphic designer, whatever, creative director in an advertising space agency. So we do work with AI. We kind of have to. And I want to preface all this by saying that I am no friend of AI. I think I confuse people sometimes because I'm very impressed by what it can do. I think it's a fallacy some people have. Like, some of my best friends will get in arguments with me because they'll be like, look at this person has 6 fingers or whatever. Isn't that stupid? And I'm like, yeah, whoever did it should have taken the time to notice that. But like, we can make an entire video out of a text prompt in less than a minute. That's insane. Or like, if you look at where it came from just like a year ago, it's night and day different. The technology is like exploding. So I can both be like very impressed by it, and let me put it this way. If I could snap my fingers and delete AI, generative AI from the face of the earth and all possibility to bring it back in the future, I would do it. I think it's too much of a risk to people's employment. They're going to use it to like shell out companies all over the place. The Salesforce CEO just said something like he was able to eliminate 4,000 jobs because of AI. Duolingo got in trouble for it, you know. They're going to try and automate as many positions as they can. I think it's going to backfire in a lot of cases because people do want human-to-human interaction. But in the creative field, it is, like I said, it's very useful, but I don't personally think that the use of it outweighs the negative impact, especially on like the environment and stuff. Like, I read somewhere, and take it with a grain of salt, but like one generated video that's like a 10-second clip or something like that wastes like, you know what? Screw it. This is why iPhones were invented. We do live fact checking. How much water does AI video use? The Google generative AI is giving me the answer. We can't trust it. Water usage for AI generated video is not publicly documented, and its exact quantity is unknown. A likely story. Some researchers have offered estimates based on similar AI tests and publicly... Answer my question. Oh my God, they refuse to answer this. AI prompts consume as much water as a 16-ounce bottle every 5 to 50 interactions. Is there a way to reuse it? Yeah. So it's a lot. You know, Google said something like their sustainability efforts had been offset by like 40% because of it this year, something like that. So all this is to say, we need to have a Butlerian jihad from Dune. Shout out my Dune heads out there. But no, I mean, it is problematic, but I think it's a situation where you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Now that it's out here, it's been unleashed upon the world. It's here and it's here to stay. So my work professionally, like, we kind of feel like we have to use this. We have to evolve or die because everyone else is going to be used. This is an arms race. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And there are situations where it is useful. especially in the creative field. But I think that there are limitations there, obviously, and you want to be careful and you want to be responsible with it. But like, so this brings up an issue that, again, I get very frustrated sometimes talking with like non-designers because they don't understand what generative AI is or the extremely wide range under which we use it. So like, just to give an example that you're probably aware of, but Photoshop has a generative fill tool. So like if somebody has like a blemish right here, we just go boop and we say generative fill and it'll perfectly fill it in. Used to be called content aware fill still exists. There used to be something called content aware fill, which did the same thing. Much worse. Generative AI or generative fill. Generative fill is fantastic. It makes things so much quicker and easier. You know, if we need to expand an image 200 pixels to the right, select the whole damn thing, generative fill, boom, taken, you know. So we're getting to the point where it reminds me of the argument years ago when someone would say an image was photoshopped. Like people would get really upset with like a model being retouched with, you know, Photoshop retouching and say, this image is photoshopped. The problem with that is, in this day, for the last, I would say 15 years, every image is photoshopped. Every single one. The question is, to what degree is an image being photoshopped, right? Am I airbrushing someone to make it look like they're 15 years younger? Or am I like, yeah, again, removing a little blemish from their face? And I think the same can be said of generative AI. Am I expanding 100 pixels above somebody's head so we have a little bit more clear space to put some text on there? In which case I'm just making it look like the photographer tipped up, you know, an inch? Or am I completely fabricating an entire person, as is the case with these J.Crew ads? Because there's levels to this, right? Would you not agree? And so I bring this all up to say, like, Vogue, I think last month got in trouble similarly for using like AI models. And a lot of people are like, why can't you hire real models? And I kind of question the same thing. And that's the argument people are making to J.Crew. Like, you guys have money, you guys can pay real photographers and real models to do these things. I don't want to put on the conspiracy hat again because I don't actually think it applies to this case. Like, there was a little part of me that was like, maybe they did this on purpose to generate clicks and rage bait. Again, check out my video about Sydney Sweeney, Matt Rife. I don't think so. The only thing that's weird to me about that is that, like, you'd think an AI studio that they supposedly contracted with would know enough to not have like a guy's foot turned backwards or whatever, but whatever. Mistakes happen. But it does just seem like a misstep. And again, I think we've got to get used to seeing these brands do this. Like I said, if it was another brand, I think they would do it and nobody would bat an eye. I think I saw one from like PacSun just the other day that was AI generated. And here's the real surreptitious part of all this is, like, a lot of time, if it's good, you won't even know it. And they're not going to cop to it. So the only thing is if we put in regulations in place to like force people to say if something is AI generated, then, you know, I think Google VO says they have like or Veo or whatever it is, says they have like a digital signature, in which case they can tell anything that is AI generated. Could be BS. But yeah, I think it's a brave new world. And with something like a brand like J.Crew, I think it does just come down to a case-by-case basis. If you're doing some like smaller startup brand and you want to use AI in like a really creative and interesting way, I saw a post the other day, I don't know if I'll even link it, but it was like a really cool, you know, intense video. And looking back on it now, I wonder if it had like some AI generation to it, but it was so like artistically done that even if it was, the person behind it had to have a vision in place. So I think there is a place for it, again, with like a smaller brand or something like that. But for a larger brand like J.Crew that has money and has resources and has a heritage and a aesthetic that they're trying to cultivate, it just seems like a miss. And I get that people are trying to embrace new technology and do different things, but like, no, read the room, I guess. Again, with like Vogue doing it too, like, you know you're going to piss some people off, right? And that's, again, tinfoil hat comes on. Are they trying to do it on purpose? Rage bait is huge. It's bigger than ever. But because I'm probably not going to make that video about J.Crew, I'll just ask the question here. Do you guys, am I alone in having some affinity for that brand? More so than like the Bananas of the world or whatever, or Gap or whatever. They have a kind of aesthetic for themselves. And I think this whole story is like kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the whole controversy, and does it turn you off of a brand if it uses AI in its artwork? I certainly could understand why. Like I said, I'm no huge friend to it. But like I said, I think we just got to get used to it because it's going to reach a point where it's everywhere. Or brands are going to take a stand and make a really clear statement that like, no, we're not doing this. That's part of our identity. We are going to only go analog and use like actual artists. Let me know what you think, but do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I appreciate it, and leave a like on this bad boy, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.